Oh, hi. Welcome to KickBack. My name is Ben.
My name is Aiden.
And we have Shannon joining us today. Shannon, thank you so much for joining us in studio.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm just answering all sorts of questions. We wanted to talk about just the concept of like kind of dance on social media and how it pertains to mental health. And when we were talking about what we wanted to talk about today, you mentioned that there's often people put this perception out of the best version of themselves. Do you want to share a little bit about your thoughts that surround that?
Sure. So I think we all see it, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I think probably most people have some form of social media, and there's more and more as we go. Like there's Facebook and Twitter and
Instagram,
TikTok and Instagram and, et cetera, and all those platforms that are out there and amongst us, and all powered by really, AI. Mm-hmm. What really is behind that, and whom are we seeing? And I think that we look at this and we see somebody on social media, and we tend to want to show the best side of ourselves when we're on social media instead of showing the real side of us.
Right.
So, and then from the viewing part, that viewer sees, oh, look at them, like, look where they're going, or look at their marriage, or look at their kids, or and we don't see maybe the behind the scenes of that. And I think that really plays with our mental health, because then we start the comparison.
Right.
Oh, I don't have that, or oh, their kids are great. Yeah, mine aren't behaving today. Well, hey, we all have kids who are not great some days. That's part of life, and it's part of parenting, right?
Right.
So.
And I think that comparison, it can lead to, like, there's not much good that can come out of comparison unless you take it as a goal-oriented thing, right? To say, well, you know what, that looks really nice. That's something that maybe I could achieve if it's purchasing something.
Right.
Or if it's having the big house or the fancy car or something along those lines. But then when you get into like the personal relationships, that's where it can lead to different issues. Because now like you said, that's now the best version normally that person is now putting out into the world. That's what they want you to see. So you see the pictures of the clean house and the kids dressed up perfectly. They don't talk about the fact that the kid just had a big tantrum in the store, or just absolutely destroyed the house because of, like, there's Legos everywhere now, and they don't share that, and that can lead to a lot of difficult feelings. Like specifically, we talked with somebody earlier, Megan, about life transitions.
Yep. And
specifically with like becoming a parent, or maybe having a death in the family. I think for me, becoming a parent, there's a lot of different things that they don't tell you about when you go into that.
So you didn't read the book, What to Expect, right, when you're expecting?
Some of it. But like for me personally, we had Theo came into the world, and then he was in the NICU for 7 days. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't something that was talked about. It was all happy, excited, pumped up conversation. You're bringing a baby into this world, it's going to be great. And then all of a sudden, it didn't go that way. And it was like he came, but then he was whisked away.
Yep.
And it was like dealing with that. I wasn't prepared personally for that. And like the conversation's really morphing now, but like I think it's important to be open about things that you've dealt with in that regard with your family, with your friends, not necessarily just on social media, but also just in your day-to-day life.
Yeah, it's the vulnerability.
Right, exactly.
When we look at things, sometimes we want to have the perception that everything's okay. Mm-hmm. But typically, not everybody's life is always okay. Right. We all have struggles. We all have things that we want to have to deal with and need to deal with. And I think that's part of us maturing, learning, growing. Because if we didn't have those struggles, we would just be flat, right? Like all of this is a learning and growing experience, right? When we do something and we screw it up, that's okay. Right. Because that screw up probably taught us a lesson and taught us to do something differently going forward. So I look at things like that, and some people may look at that as failure. I look at that as, you know what? Not going to do that again that way.
Yeah.
Maybe try and do the same thing, but maybe in a different way.
Right.
And then that becomes a little more successful. And if we look at goals and aspire to do different things, and there's nothing wrong with goals. I always look at, let's look at what we want to do or what we need to do and set those goals and kind of set aspirations for ourselves. But then we also have to look at that, I think, and make sure that they are aspirations that can be attained, because we find a lot in ourselves when, okay, I'm going to walk 1,000,000 steps today and I only walked 10,000. Well, that's a failure. Well, no, it's not, because I you know what? I only walked 5,000 yesterday. I just walked 10,000. So I think letting people into our lives and showing that vulnerability, maybe not to everybody, because we need to have safe spaces, and again, I'm not a psychologist or a mental health professional in any way, shape, or form. So I just want to put that out there.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer. But as a person who has gone through some struggles, I don't think it's bad that sometimes we share those with other people and then those individuals that we share it with can now be motivated to say, oh yeah, like I'm not so maybe shamed into something, and I don't have to deal with this all on my own. I can seek help. Either it's from friends and talking to friends, or just going out for a drink and being social and having a chat, to therapy. And we just discussed this. I think that personally, I think everybody needs a therapist. I have a therapist I see regularly. There's times when it's I go in like this, and there's times when I go in and I'm crying, right? But I think it shouldn't be hidden. And I think that's, one good thing that's maybe come out of COVID is that our mental health situation has been heightened a little bit, and people can see that it's not shameful to have some mental health challenges.
Right, and that's something that we were talking about with another fellow, and he was saying that there's never been, he's never seen it where there's been so many people reaching out for help. And he's like, you can either look at that as a negative thing and say that there's so many people that are struggling. He's like, but you can also look at it as a positive thing that these people are actually seeking help now, before where maybe when we started doing this 7 years ago, that wasn't necessarily the same case, right? That people were still dealing with a lot of those stigmas and the shame surrounding it. So the fact that there's so many people reaching out for assistance is a great sign too.
Yeah, well, and when you think about it, if people are reaching out, then they're finding coping mechanisms. They're finding, oh, yeah, I never identified that I had anxiety before. That's why I do that. Oh, wow, once I identify that and I can figure out, okay, that's my trigger, and that's what happens when A happens, well, then I'm gonna do B. I can stop myself. I can figure that out for myself and make myself a better person and form better relationships, right? And I think with social media, sometimes we don't see that in the background. Everything's all rosy, right? And don't get me wrong, I know you're the social media guru, right? But on the same hand, social media can do so much that is so beneficial for us, that we also have to realize that it can be a detriment in some forms. I look at when I grew up, man, I'm old. So I was out riding a bike, and you came home when the street lights came on, and there was nobody with a video camera at a party, because we didn't have video cameras, and if there was, it was like this big. Right. So
noticeable.
No, yeah, you knew it, right? So then you'd like, oh.
We've got to go to break, but we'll be right back with more from Shannon right after this.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Today, I helped a parent feed their family by connecting them to a food program.
Today, I helped someone connect with mental health supports.
Today, I helped a couple struggling to pay their bills access financial aid.
Every day, 211 navigators connect Canadians to critical government and community programs and services.
211. Help starts here.
Hey folks, it's me, Giovanni Petiti, the host of Not Tonight. It's the new late night talk show right here on Rogers TV. We got fabulous guests, a lot of laughs. It's just like the Jimmy Kimmel Show, if you order the Jimmy Kimmel Show on Wish. So join me Sunday at 10 o'clock right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
Long way from Nashville and Mama, I tell you that. Performed from Montreal to Boston to Los Angeles. But Toronto, that's my chosen home. Sure, when I'm walking down Yonge Street, I see some funny people who have the nerve to point the finger at me. And grin and smile and whisper. My song was #2 on local radio. Sold 10,000 in Toronto alone. Turned down Ed Sullivan because they asked me to remove my makeup. Wouldn't do American Bandstand because of their segregation policies. I was just being me. Never tried to explain myself to anyone. And besides, none of that to worry, Jackie, because I know I look good. Got a new way of loving, baby. Thought I want to teach it to you.
Jackie Shane was a pioneer transgender soul singer, a central figure in the Toronto R&B scene. She helped shape what we know as the Toronto sound.
Personal finance show that dares to ask those money questions you've always wanted to. Join Mike Bregueth when he talks with experts on all aspects of money. Money Matters with Mike Bregueth, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Think it's okay to drive high? Think again. Drug-impaired driving is as illegal as drunk driving, and in Ontario, the penalties are the same. If police suspect you're driving under the influence of drugs of any kind, or a combination of drugs and alcohol, and you fail a roadside test, your license will be suspended immediately for up to 30 days. You'll pay a penalty of $198. And you can be charged with a criminal offense of impaired driving, the same as alcohol. Driving high is never okay.
Welcome back to KickBack. My name is Ben.
My name's Aiden.
And we are continued to be joined by Shannon.
Thank you.
Shannon, it's been wonderful having you in our wonderful living room here at the Rogers studio. Yes. Before the break, we were just beginning to talk about how different generations have interacted with social media in this sense. Before the break, you were mentioning that cameras were this big, right? And they weren't at parties in that sense where they were capturing every single move that you made.
Correct. Yeah. And I think it's important to realize that as the generations and what has happened with social media and our young people that we have now, you know, we were just talking at the break about things like bullying and, you know, like here was a camera when I was going to a party. It was probably a bush party and we were probably running from the police. But anyways,
cables didn't run that long, right?
And we scattered, right? So, but at that point in time, you knew if somebody was videotaping. Now everybody has a phone, right? And if you make one wrong move at a party, people have this realization that that can go viral, basically. It can be uploaded to social media or be text to a whole bunch of friends in an instant. Whereas before what happened is, oh, you screwed up at a party or you screwed up somewhere and you made a, you know, I would say a jack, I won't say that, of yourself. People forgot about it. Well, now it's still out there, and people can hide in social media, and even just people can hide behind the computer or their screen name, etc. So I think it becomes much more difficult for our young generation to grow up. Now, maybe my parents said the same about me. I don't know, right? But I look at social media, and there's so many good things, but there's so many things that can go wrong as well.
Yeah, and then I don't know, like, it's like for me personally, and it's more so the comparison side that I see, right? You see everybody posting that happy picture, beautiful everything, and that's what you're looking at and you're seeing. But then when I was doing a little bit of research for this, it was like a lot of the stats came from like the ages between like 12 and like early 20s, and a lot of it was more so the online bullying and just the harassment that kids were seeing. And it was something, I think it was like 70% of kids reported that was something that they dealt with. And
isn't that sad?
Yes. Yes.
Like you think about it, you know, 70% of our young population has to deal with some type of bullying that they can't even confront the individual who's bullying them because they're going behind the scenes and using different screen names, they develop a whole new Facebook. Well, if my Facebook, for them it's probably Instagram, right?
Right.
So, but,
Yeah.
or Twitter or Snapchat or whatever that is. They're developing different names that you can't even see the individual who's bullying you.
Right.
And that makes it even harder.
Yeah. And I don't know how, like personally, how I would deal with that if that situation were to happen. Right? Like it's just so, I don't know what the solution is around that other than, I guess, educating the kids and providing them with the tools and
being that support system for if you have a family or if you're a parent and you have those kids, being able to have those conversations with your kids so that they feel that they trust you when they have those situations occur.
Yeah. And I think that as we all went through school, we were probably at one point in time, without knowing it, either we're bullied or we were the bully.
Right.
At some point, we've all said something not nice to somebody and didn't think about it at the time and thought back and went, yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
Right? Well, then what's the harm of going back and saying, hey, Ben, you know what? I'm really sorry. I probably interacted with you not in an appropriate way. I was just upset about something.
Right.
Right? And I took it out on you.
Right.
Right? Because if I say something that's to you that is not appropriate, you're probably going like, man, what's going on? Like, am I really that way? Did I like? So it reflects, maybe back on the individual who is saying it, not the individual who it's putting towards.
Right. Well, and just that idea that hurt people, right? And normally it's like, I don't know what the stat might be, but it's like normally that person is coming from a place and it is that reflection of themselves that they are now communicating to you and putting you into that place. And so I think having that mindset and knowing that that's more than likely where that's coming from, it can really change your perspective. But I know for kids, that would be something that would be very difficult to navigate.
Yeah. And it just, not even kids, but people in general. It's hard, I think, for people to step back and look at things because, when we're hurt, we kind of look at that and we dwell in it maybe a little bit and we go, well, look at what this person did or what that person did. And, you can look at that and take it and it can reflect back on the individual who hurt you. And I know sometimes, right, it's hard, but sometimes it's, it's just crap they're slinging because they're hurt inside. Or it's that stuff that they don't know what to do because maybe they just are not feeling good about themselves. So they don't know how to feel better about themselves other than to put others down, right? So, yeah. I think it's tough. But mental health these days, as I see it in the last, and I don't know, you probably see it a lot more too as well, Ben, in your job, in social media and online, et cetera. I think it's come to the forefront a lot. It's more prevalent, and people are seeking that help, as we just discussed, right? And I think that's fantastic. I think, again, that's one of the good things that came out of the pandemic, right?
Definitely, and I think it's just putting that, the reason we started this was just to start conversations, just to make that happen, and just to make it easier for people to feel like they could have those conversations. And I hope that that's something that we have done.
I think you have. I think you're doing a good job.
Thank you, and I think that it's just important to know that you can have those conversations with people and to not stop trying to have those conversations if you get a not so great reaction the first time that you open yourself up to somebody and be vulnerable, right? You continue to do it until you find the people that you can be honest with and be comfortable with.
Yeah, and I think part of that is determining whom to be vulnerable to, right? I don't think that you want to go out and the person who you just is sharing a beer with at the bar who you just met on Saturday night watching the football game is probably a good choice.
Right.
But maybe it is, right? However, it's, making sure that the individual, you can trust that individual with your vulnerability. And I think that's key. And when we look at that, a lot of times I think we tell ourselves a story in our head. Oh, if I share that, they're not going to like it. They're not going to like me. They're going to think lesser of me. There's a lot of shame involved. Whereas probably that person has gone through something like that. And they're glad that you've opened up because they feel more at ease as well.
Totally, and I've noticed that personally in probably the last 6 or 7 months of just that question of being like, how are you? And just the typical response is, oh, I'm good.
I'm fine.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
And it's just, I've noticed that in myself giving a little bit more than that to the people that I do know and trust with that, sharing that, they've felt comfortable to sharing back to me. And there's power in sharing and starting conversations. And I just really appreciate you coming in today, Shannon, and sharing your thoughts surrounding mental health. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And can I just touch one?
Unfortunately, we have to go.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you so much.
Are you low on food? Struggling to pay the bills? Overwhelmed by life's challenges? When you need support but don't know where to turn, just dial 211. 211 connects you to the programs or services near you.
211, how can I help you?
211, help starts here.
Join Carolina Suarez for Tapestry Hall Style, Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Hey guys, Steph here from The Cruise TV, the show where we talk about the people and stories behind the coolest cars on the road. Join us on Sundays at 8 p.m.
For frank discussion on Canadian politics and issues that matter to you, tune in to Addressing the Issue with Andy Streisfeld, Fridays at 6:30 on Rogers TV.
My name is Chase Nicholas. I am a Mi'kmaq hockey player. Growing up, I always remember my family talking about the Mi'kmaq as the creators of the game of hockey. In grade 7, I did research on Mi'kmaq hockey sticks as the first sticks of the NHL. I found a Mi'kmaq hockey stick made in 1917, the same year the NHL was formed. I was surprised to find out the very stick I was holding was made by my great-great-grandfather, Alexander Cope. In 1934, an elder known as Old Joe Cope wrote a letter to the Halifax Herald claiming the Mi'kmaq created hockey. I found out later that I am a direct descendant of Old Joe Cope. There was a time when Mi'kmaq children were torn from their families and not allowed to speak their language, losing their words and stories. But the stories are coming back to us. Stepping on the ice, I take pride knowing the roots of the game of hockey stem from my ancestors in the Mi'kmaq Nation.
Welcome back to KickBack. My name is Ben.
My name's Aiden.
And we are very excited to have Mr. Dave Carroll join us.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Well, this doesn't even look like my fake living room at all. Like, where is my furniture?
I know, right? We switched it up a little bit and got rid of the curtains. And
all right, well.
Yeah, here we are.
All right.
Here we are.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
We'll have it back to you tomorrow.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
We are talking all things mental health. Today. It's
Yeah.
Blue Monday. We wanted to talk to you about the importance of community and how it pertains to mental health. Community is a huge part of your life. You've dedicated, I would say, your life to building community, whether that's in the church or in the community at large.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to get your thoughts on just that connection.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, you know, we can all agree that we're in this together. Like our community is one.
Right.
You know, and we all have our own journeys. We all have our own struggles, and you know, I've got my struggles, and people that are here, like bravely telling their stories, have their struggles. But you know, our community is together, right? And for me, a bunch of years ago, when actually you guys were a big catalyst for me in telling some of my mental health struggles. And I have over the last bunch of years, but it really was this program that, you know, got me to go, yeah, I think I'm going to share with other people.
Right.
And this whole journey for me has been, it's been, I think, the most significant part of my mental health wellness journey was talking about it publicly. And both here, and then it's turned into talking about it publicly in a bunch of different places. But being able to say, hey, I know that I'm not alone. Hey, I hope that there's other people out there. And then the response from other people going, yeah, you're not alone. That's the big hope, right? When you do things in community, you go, I hope it's not just me. And then
please somebody else show up.
yes, exactly. And then people going, no, it's not just you. Right. And that's been quite something. Like even people, there's a good friend of mine that I went to like elementary school with. When I first did my discussion about social anxiety here on KickBack, that he got back to me and he said, yeah, just so you know, like, I'm there too. It was so affirming to me to be able to go, I guess I'm actually not alone. And community just means the world, really.
Right. And why do you think it's important to share how you were feeling? Like, why was that important to you?
Because isolation is awful.
Right.
Like, isolation is terrible. Like, in almost anything you do, if you feel like you're alone in it, like, I don't know whether there's anything in the world where you are actually alone. Like, there's a lot of people in the world.
Yeah.
You know how many people in the world there are?
Yeah.
There's so many people in the world. Like, you are never alone in almost anything that exists in the world. And you feel so tempted to feel alone in your struggle. Like, it's this nagging thing in the back of your mind that goes, this is just you.
Right.
Nobody understands you. But the truth is that so many people understand you. And I'll say, not everybody in your life will understand you.
Right.
And so you have to be strategic and understanding and selective of who you share your struggles with. But being able to share your struggles with a wider scope than you think is beneficial. So I've gone on a couple different shows over the years and shared some of my different mental health journeys, and it's been 95% positive. And so I'll tell you, community is more supportive than you think they're going to be.
Right, and if you do find that 5% that don't understand or don't give you necessarily what you need, right? You move to the next one. You say, you know what, that's not the right person to share with, and you move on.
Like, if you share an opinion about a sports team, you're going to have 40% of the people that don't like you because of that.
Right, right.
So that's way more than a mental health struggle. Like, there's going to be people that don't understand. Got it.
Right.
Like, I look back at, actually, before today, knowing that I was going to come on here, a few different clips, and I saw some different people that said some terrible things about mental health journeys.
Right.
Like, well, that's fine. I don't really care for those people anyway. Like, it's you just got to be able to just brush them off and go, that's okay.
Right.
Community matters. Community matters. Like, both macro community and like mid-level, hey, people that I know, and even people in your like personal
like group, like your
personal
family and
bubble.
extended kind of friends.
Yeah, all those different levels matter, and I think that all of them have value in sharing community with.
Right. And I think that it's important to put yourself to, if you are finding that you're lacking community, to put yourself into situations where you can potentially find it. Whether, like we were just talking with Shannon about social media, there's groups for literally everything on there, whether it's biking, whether it's football, whether it's writing, poetry, art, whatever you want to do. It's simple to find people that are like-minded and that potentially share the same struggles that you do because they're walking a similar path to you. And I find that community, the individuals that personally share their mental health journeys are often doing so to try and help somebody and to try and clear some of those maybe early hurdles that you dealt with, so that you don't have to stumble through all of those things that you stumble to. You can just be like, hey, this is what you're struggling with. This is some things you might see.
Yeah, and that's great on a macro level, and on a micro level, it's great to have a wingman.
Right.
Like when you're going to, as somebody who struggles with social anxiety, if you know you're going to go into a place where you're like, this is going to be a social situation where I know that I'm not going to really like.
Right.
Well, find a wingman. Go, hey, can I bring Bob?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And tell Bob, hey, I'm dealing with some stuff. And so for me, I come up with some strategies. I'm like, I'm going to go to the bathroom like once every 25 minutes or so.
Right.
And Bob's going to go, yeah, he's got a urinary problem.
Right. It just clears the air like that, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a lot of people in my life that really think that I've got a serious urinary problem. I don't. But I'm like, oh, that really helps me with my reset to be able to go back into a social situation.
Right.
Find a wingman. Find a wingman to be able to go, hey, we're going to go in, we're going to do this. Dave's going to go out there and he's going to go, yeah, Dave just needs a breath of fresh air. Find a wingman.
Right.
Like there are ways to be able to figure out, to be able to go, hey, community-wise, let's do this together.
Right. And we've got 30 seconds before we go to break. So Dave, what would you say to somebody that may be struggling and is at home? What would you tell them?
Struggling at home?
Yeah, struggling at home.
You're going to be fine.
Yeah.
You're going to be fine. There are ways to get through this. Take a deep breath. There are ways to get through this.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dave, for joining us in our living
Ben.
room. You can have it back tomorrow, and we'll be right back after this.
These guys are the best. That's their whole job.
'Cause I'm fighting for
Get me home to my baby.
I promise.
We do not have a lot of time. Let's go, let's go, let's go!
I'm here. We're in this together.
Chicago Wednesday. New season's premiere, January 17th. On City TV or stream it on City TV Plus.
You're watching an interesting local show on Rogers TV and you want to know more. That's when you head to RogersTV.com. Our website provides more information about our programs, our hosts, our schedule, and about how you too can get involved with Rogers TV. Visit us online at RogersTV.com.
Aging Well brings you conversations with experts to help empower your golden years with enthusiasm and optimism. Don't miss Aging Well with Angela and Alice Liu, Thursdays at 7:30 p.m.
folks, it's me, Giovanni Petiti, the host of Not Tonight. It's the new late night talk show right here on Rogers TV. We got fabulous guests, a lot of laughs. It's just like the Jimmy Kimmel Show. If you order the Jimmy Kimmel Show on Wish. So join me Sunday at 10 o'clock right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
This is a perfectly healthy child. What's unhealthy are birth alerts, a racist practice that may stop this Indigenous mother from going home with her newborn. Become an ally. Rise above racism in healthcare.
To KickBack. My name is Ben.
My name is Aiden.
And we are now joined by Mia of the Strength Girl. Mia, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
And thank you for joining us. So we wanted to talk to you about just the importance of staying active and how that pertains to just kind of a positive outlook on life, your mental health. Can you share a little bit about what you see personally, just in how that kind of keeps you like active by staying fit? And
Yeah, so there's a lot of research to support that when we are active or when we are partaking in some sort of movement or fitness regime, that these feel-good neurotransmitters are going to be released in the body. So I'm going to refer to them as like our happy hormones. So those could be like dopamine and serotonin. And for those that are struggling with some sort of mental health condition, we usually see that there's going to be lower levels of serotonin and dopamine within their brains. So if we can get them partaking in some sort of movement or fitness or physical activity regime, you can start to see those levels increase and have a positive impact on their overall physical, mental, and emotional well-being. So that's what I've really noticed, even just working with my own clients that are struggling, that the effects that movement can have on your overall mental, emotional, and physical well-being are so positive and just have a huge effect.
And does it have to be something, like, does it have to be a big movement or a big activity to be able to see those, those positive effects?
That's a great question. And no, I think a lot of people have this idea that they need to be working out 7 days a week for 2 hours at a time for it to be effective or to have some sort of positive benefit for them. But really, I always say, let's lower the barrier to entry and let's get you started and meet you where you're at. So someone who's gone from doing absolutely nothing to working out 7 days a week, that's not going to be sustainable for them, and they're probably not going to enjoy it. I mean, I don't even enjoy that. So if we can even just get you started, you know, going for a 20 to 30 minute walk every day, right? And again, for those struggling, that might be really hard to do. So just lower the barrier, meet yourself where you're at, and then slowly increase over time. That's what I would say.
Right, and I forget what it was, but it was something along the lines of like even making your bed in the morning, like whatever that might be, whatever that thing needs to be to feel, to kind of push yourself over the edge to feel that you've, like, that could be something that you've accomplished today, is making your bed today, or it could be just having a shower. It could be something simple too, right?
Totally.
And so that's nice to see. And I know a lot of people struggle, myself included, with like just that getting over that barrier of like, I should be doing something, or like, oh, I'm gonna wake up early tomorrow, and then that doesn't happen. What are some tips that you might have for overcoming that?
Yeah, so that could even look like hiring a coach or a trainer to guide you and support you throughout the process. Sometimes the hardest part is getting started. So if you can get your foot in the door and have someone there to help cultivate that positive mindset for you and support you along that journey, that could be really helpful. So whether that's me or someone else that you could hire to support you, I think that would be a great start. Or maybe you join like a small group training type of program. And you're showing up to like a class time, right? Maybe you recruit one of your friends to be like an accountability partner for you, right? And there's someone that you can go to the gym with. That would be also a really great way to get started. I think also too, shifting your mindset from like, I should be doing this or I need to be doing this, to I can do this, or this is something that really excites me, or this is something that I can do to prepare myself later down the line when I'm aging and I'm getting older, right? So I think just having a different mindset around it and asking yourself as to why. Like, why is it important to you? Why do you want to do this? Why is this going to benefit you? Versus seeing it as like, this is a chore that I have to do.
Right. Just another thing.
Yeah, totally. We already have enough things to do.
And I know that there's a number of like walking groups even where you can go and join, and it's a simple search on Facebook or on Google to be able to partake in that, and then it becomes a social activity too. It doesn't necessarily just have to be about the movement itself.
Totally. Yeah, I know a couple here in Brantford, and I've partaken in some myself, and they're a really great way to meet new people and also get moving. So.
Yeah. And so for you personally, why is it important for like you as the fitness, the coach, the trainer, what excites you about doing that and kind of helping people kind of clear those hurdles?
That's a really great question. I just love watching people do things that they once thought they weren't capable of, right? A big reason as to why I work with my clients is to show them their true potential and what they can do. Because I think we all have these self-limiting beliefs in ourselves and thinking that like, oh, I can't do that. You see someone doing something, you're like, I can't do that. But over time, we can slowly and gradually build, and within a year's time, maybe you're doing something that you once thought you never could have done, right? So that's a big reason as to why I love what I do. And I just love, I primarily work with women. So I just love seeing women hone in on their power and realize how strong and capable they truly are. It's one of my favorite things.
Right, and I feel like mental health can lead to that feeling of isolation, of being alone in what you're doing, and can really push those negative thoughts and feelings on yourself. And participating in something like whether it's classes with yourself or a walking group can really be empowering for those individuals too.
Totally, and give you another sense of purpose. Right. And yeah, I think I just love it. It's awesome.
And it's really about small steps. Yes. I think, and that's what this entire production is about taking those small steps, whether it be a conversation and opening up yourself to somebody and saying, you know what, Aiden, I'm struggling with this, and I don't know necessarily, you don't necessarily have to feel like you need to fix it, but just the power of me saying that that's what I'm struggling with can go a long way.
For sure.
Yeah, and I think that that's why it's so important to kind of push that snowball, whether it is strength training or any part of fitness. It's about just starting, and it's about just getting that ball rolling and just creating those conversations so that they can then grow. And if that small step that you start today is just getting out of bed in the morning or making your bed or having a shower, that is a step that you've taken towards becoming wherever you want to be, whether that's better or whether that's just continuing and growing and learning.
Totally. I think strength training can be a really great catalyst for showing you what you're truly capable of and building that momentum to find something that's sustainable long term. I feel like a lot of people, again, like I said, go into this thinking that they have to do all of the things, when I like to treat it as a domino effect, right? If you can nail down one habit first, make that habitual, and then continue to add something more and knock those dominoes down the line, and then they become like second nature. So even before I start working with a client, like you said, asking what they're struggling with, where do you find that you need the help? Where do you find that you're lacking? And just getting an idea of where they're at and meeting them where they're at versus overwhelming them and saying that you need to be doing all those things. Let's focus on what's super important for you first, and then we'll continue to build off of that once they become habits and routines.
And for the people that are at home watching this, where can they find more from you?
Yeah, so I'm mainly on Instagram. I'm there way too often, but you can find me at The Strength Girl, and then also on my website, thestrengthgirl.com. I'm also on Facebook, I'm on Threads, I'm on all the things. But yeah, my website, thestrengthgirl.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mia. It sounds like strength training is like a really perfect metaphor for individuals in mental health and what they're working for. And we just really appreciate you coming in and sharing today.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll be right back.
Canada's Got Talent is getting ready for the biggest season ever.
874,624, 800.
With the biggest cash prize in Canadian TV history.
Howie, what are you doing?
874,626.
Rogers wrote a $1 million check for this season's CGT winner.
Yes! It's the $1 million season.
Thank you, Rogers.
Canada's Got Talent. This March on City TV.
Join Carolina Suarez for Tapestry Hall Style, Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. on Rogers TV.
This is a brain in urgent need of mental health care. But because 3 out of every 4 Indigenous people experience racism in healthcare, she may not get the help she needs. Become an ally. Rise above racism in healthcare.
I was born and raised in Musqueam First Nation territory by my mother, who spoke Hunkaminam to me. As a child, I ceased using my mother tongue, as to use any language other than English was considered not being Canadian, so I was told. The old people came to me in a dream and reminded me of who I am and where I come from. I have reawakened. My roots are strong, and I'm no longer a silent speaker. My language tells me where I'm from. It defines me and guides me to teach others to learn and understand our culture and traditions. A gift for those in the present and the unborn generations. What was lost is found. What was asleep has awakened. My blood is here, and I am complete. I have returned home.
Weekly features on local events and organizations. Interviews with local community members speaking on what's happening in and around your community. Your region this week. All local, all year round. Fridays at 6 p.m. right here on Rogers TV.
It's the personal finance show that dares to ask those money questions you've always wanted to. Join Mike Bregueth when he talks with experts on all aspects of money. Money Matters with Mike Bregueth, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on Rogers.
Welcome back to KickBack. My name is Ben.
My name's Aiden.
And we are now joined by Rachel Strasser.
Hello.
Welcome.
Back. I'm happy to be here.
So we're putting a spin on it now. Questions are now being fired in our direction. Take it away.
Okay. So how did KickBack start? Like, I just want to know how it started. How did this all begin?
I think, how did it be? Did you initiate the
originally, I met Ben through a brewery that I was working at, and I kind of had this idea of breweries giving back to kind of people struggling with mental health and kind of just having that conversation. And I was shot down by the people that I was working with at the time, and started chatting with Ben about like what could we do. And Ben was working with Rogers doing a show back then, and was like, what if we did this kind of like mental health marathon, tying together all these people that we connected with over the time, and 7 years later it became
Roger said yes,
now.
Patty said yes, and then somebody else said yes, and then I think it was, I don't think we really knew what we were getting into when we opened that up of like 12 hours of live television, and so there's a lot to that, and there's a lot to that if it was something that was lighter, right? If it's it can be a very heavy subject, and so 12 hours of emotional conversation and hearing people. Sometimes the people that come on to KickBack and they share what they've struggled with, their personal stories, I have so much respect for them coming on and sharing, because a lot of them, those are their deepest, like darkest secrets. And for them to share those things, like we've had individuals come on and share for the first time publicly that this is something that they deal with.
That their families don't even know about.
Right,
yet.
exactly. And there's a lot of shame and there's a lot of stigmas that still surround mental health. And I think that was a big part of why we did start this, was to kind of get those conversations going and to just see where it leads. But as far as the marathon goes, that was definitely, we didn't know what we were getting into with that. And it's been a lot of fun, and we've met a lot of great people, and it's been really interesting.
And we've got to see people's growth over the years and kind of how they develop and where they go from the first year all the way up till now.
Right, in both a professional and a like a professional, as in like a therapist coming on maybe 7 years ago for the first time and sharing what they want to share, and just the body language, the difference compared to showing up this time being way different, and just the confidence and the comfortability, or the individual sharing their personal story. And even though it's been X amount of years in a row that we've heard that story, they've been adding and they've been working on themselves and building on that, and it's really empowering to see that. And then also to see the people that have maybe were in a dark place 6 or 7 years ago, but are now on the other side of that, and that's no longer their story. Like that's a part of their story that's there, but it's no longer what they don't identify with that.
Right.
Right.
Right. And you said and it's so true with mental health and sharing of struggles, and there's a lot of shame which is being broken down by having this open kind of forum, sharing, hearing stories, and people becoming empowered through learning about different tools and opportunities for them to feel supported. But I feel like this production really counters in a beautiful way the weightiness of that by bringing light to the subject and seeing the evolution of different stories over the years and having those individuals come back. And there must be, on your part, every year getting to see that growth and the change in those individuals and their stories, a lot of takeaways for yourself. And I wanted to revisit the story you shared with me, Ben, about interviewing John Ball. And, we talk about being really open and candid and vulnerable, and mental health as this thing that most people, I would say everyone, struggles with mental health from time to time, some more than others, but that it not being something that we openly talk about. And wherever you are on the spectrum of like severe depression and anxiety to just being in a funk, sometimes that becomes your norm and you don't realize you're in that place until somebody shares your stories or touches your life in a way that kind of wakes you up and empowers you to start doing the work in your own life, to whether that's reaching out to somebody or starting a group or just listening to someone's story. And I know you shared with me that John Ball touched your life in a really neat way when you interviewed him, and I was wondering and hoping if you'd share with us today.
Definitely, and it was really neat because over the course of the 7 years, there was not necessarily something that directly impacted me personally that I heard a story about. Hearing the stories that were shared may have been something that family or friends had struggled with, and that was part of why we started this too. And we like the passion came out of that, of showing that there's all sorts of opportunities for help and assistance, and that you're not alone, and that there's lots of opportunity to try different things. But for me, when I interviewed John, it was something he talked about, having that voice in your head, those negative thoughts, and he described it as being the intruder. And for him, it was actually everybody's already heard a story, but the idea of the voice started off quiet and it got louder, and it led to the point of him having like thoughts about suicide. And for me personally, talking to him and hearing him share his story about how he had had these negative thoughts and how that they had been growing and how they just affected his life and kind of stole his confidence in a sense, that was something that all of a sudden it clicked for me that I have been hearing this voice in my head. And this voice has been negative. And for me, hearing him say that that voice is not your voice, that voice is something else. He described it as the intruder in his book, but that is something that is separate, and that is not you, and that does not have to be you. That was something for me that just clicked in me, and it was like, wow, I've been living in a funk or a veil for like a year and a half. And it's just like my confidence was stolen out of that. For whatever reason, I don't know what changed or what shifted, but that was just something that I had grown into, and those negative thoughts had creeped in, and it was just something that I had really been kind of unknowingly struggled with. But when John started to talk about what he was dealing with, it was something that I was like, oh, shoot, the last year and a half, what have I been doing, right? And just that's how I've been feeling. But I didn't know that I was feeling that way until somebody talked about the fact that they were feeling that way.
It had become part of your norm.
Correct.
Totally.
Right. Yeah.
And Ben is my husband, so when you shared this story with me, did you know you're my husband?
Yeah. We got 2 minutes.
I just was blown away and really surprised because our life, we own businesses, we have a child, and life is busy, but in the busyness of life, you can be existing at a level that is, your norm can be low vibe. And I'm very thankful to John and all of the other brave individuals who came and shared their story, because it led to us having the conversation about you coming to that realization. And I think now we're going to make it a real priority in our home to just check in with each other more often and see how we're doing, and to also create space for a little bit more introspection, to measure the barometer of where we're sitting in our own mental health. Very cool. What about you, Aiden?
I don't know.
You've been on this wild journey for 7 years.
We've got a minute left.
A minute left. Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's been really special seeing just our growth. I think we joked about it earlier today, and just that picture of the three. We've got a picture where it has 3 years, and it shows the first, it's a screenshot of the first bit of every single episode. And the first episode back in 2018, we're both like sitting on here, and we're both like, what did we get ourselves into? Yeah. To the point now where we can sit here and feel comfortable and just know that like we can do this and we can talk to anybody, and what we're doing is making a difference. And I just really appreciate working with you on this, and glad that we did this together. And thank you again, Rach, so much for conducting this interview with us.
My
we
pleasure.
have to go now, but we'll be right back after this.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
I am God Greg. My name means everything.
Tom Longboats.
I am Wolf Clan, Onondaga Nation. I've run many different races. I've run to survive.